race session is at Mid Ohio in Nunn, USA. Austin Ogonowski from Canada is P1. Panzer F1 is P2. Riley Gallardo from United States is 3rd. Powell 2002 from Poland is 4th. Kevin Woodward from Canada is P5. Louis Magalang from Philippines is 6th. Gordon Jacobson from United States is 7th. Walter Phillips from United States is P8. Jen Markov 007 from Canada is P9. Austin Ogonowski is 1st. Riley Gallardo is 3rd. Walter Phillips is P6. Riley Gallardo is P3. Kevin Woodward in the SEs is P4. Panzer F1 in Thunder Valley is 2nd. Riley Gallardo on lap 2 is P3, 0.4 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 is P2, 0.3 ahead of Riley Gallardo. Riley Gallardo is 3rd, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Powell 2002 is 7th, 0.4 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 is 2nd, 0.3 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo is 3rd. Panzer F1 in the SEs is P2, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo in Thunder Valley is P3, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 is P2, 0.4 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo from United States in the keyhole is P3, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 is P2, 0.4 ahead of Riley Gallardo. Walter Phillips is P7, 0.5 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 is second, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Walter Phillips from United States is P7, 0.8 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 in the SEs is P2, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo is third, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 is P2, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo in rolling start line is third, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 in the SEs is second, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Walter Phillips in the SEs is P7, 0.8 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 in the keyhole is P2, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Walter Phillips in start finish is 7th, 0.4 behind Gordon Jacobson. Riley Gallardo in Thunder Valley is P3, 0.6 behind Panzer F1. Walter Phillips in the SEs is P7, 0.4 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 in the keyhole is P2, 0.4 ahead of Riley Gallardo. Riley Gallardo from United States is P3, 0.4 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 in the SEs is second, 0.3 behind Austin Ogonowski. Panzer F1 lost P2 to Riley Gallardo. Walter Phillips on lap 8 is P7, 1.0 behind Gordon Jacobson. Riley Gallardo in the keyhole is third, 0.4 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 in the SEs is P2, 1.0 ahead of Riley Gallardo. Walter Phillips in rolling start line is P7, 1.1 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 on lap 10 is second, 0.3 behind Austin Ogonowski. Walter Phillips in Thunder Valley is 7th, 0.5 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 in the SEs is 2nd, 0.2 behind Austin Ogonowski. Walter Phillips in the keyhole is 7th, 0.4 behind Gordon Jacobson. Panzer F1 is P2, 0.4 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson in the SEs is 7th, 0.4 behind Walter Phillips. Austin Ogonowski is 2nd battling Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo is 3rd, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski in the carousel is 2nd, 0.3 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo is P3, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski is 2nd, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo in Thunder Valley is P3, 0.9 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski is P2, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo in rolling start line is P3, 0.6 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski from Canada in Thunder Valley is second, 0.8 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo is third, 0.9 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski is P2, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo in Thunder Valley is P3, 1.1 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo entering the pits is third. Austin Ogonowski is P2, 0.9 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo exiting pits. Powell 2002 is fifth, 2.6 behind Riley Gallardo. Austin Ogonowski is P2, 0.4 behind Panzer F1. Powell 2002 is P5, 3.1 behind Riley Gallardo. Austin Ogonowski in rolling start line is second. Powell 2002 is P5, 4.4 behind Riley Gallardo. Austin Ogonowski in start finish is P2, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo is 4th, 4.0 behind Kevin Woodward. Austin Ogonowski from Canada in the SEs is 2nd, 0.5 behind Pansarev 1. Powell 2002 in the SEs is 5th. Austin Ogonowski in the keyhole is P2, 0.4 behind Pansarev 1. Jen Markov 007 entering the pits is 9th. Powell 2002 from Poland in the keyhole is 5th, 3.0 behind Riley Gallardo. Louis Magalang exiting pits. Kevin Woodward is 3rd. Jen Markov 007 exiting pits. Pansarev 1 is P2. Pansarev 1 exiting pits. Austin Ogonowski exiting pits. Austin Ogonowski from Canada is 3rd, 1.1 behind Pansarev 1. Powell 2002 exiting pits. Pansarev 1 in the SEs is 2nd, 0.9 behind Kevin Woodward. Gordon Jacobson entering the pits is P7. Austin Ogonowski is P3, 0.9 behind Pansarev 1. Pansarev 1 in rolling start line is P2. Gordon Jacobson exiting pits. Austin Ogonowski from Canada in the SEs is P3, 0.5 behind Pansarev 1. Pansarev 1 in Thunder Valley is P2, 0.2 behind Kevin Woodward. Walter Phillips entering the pits is P6. Austin Ogonowski is 3rd, 0.5 behind Pansarev 1. Austin Ogonowski is now P2. Walter Phillips exiting pits. Riley Gallardo is P3, 2.7 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski in Thunder Valley is second, 0.8 behind Panzer F1. Riley Gallardo on lap 22 is third, 2.8 behind Austin Ogonowski. Austin Ogonowski is second, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Kevin Woodward exiting pits. Kevin Woodward from Canada in the keyhole is fifth, 2.4 behind Powell 2002. Austin Ogonowski is P2, 0.5 behind Panzer F1. Kevin Woodward in Thunder Valley is fifth, 2.5 behind Powell 2002. Austin Ogonowski in the SEs is second, 0.4 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 in the carousel is P2 battling Austin Ogonowski. Kevin Woodward in the SEs is P5, 3.4 behind Powell 2002. Panzer F1 in the SEs is P2, 0.9 behind Austin Ogonowski. Kevin Woodward on lap 24 is P5, 4.0 behind Powell 2002. Panzer F1 is second, 0.8 behind Austin Ogonowski. Riley Gallardo in the SEs is P3, 4.3 behind Panzer F1. Panzer F1 is second, 0.4 behind Austin Ogonowski. Kevin Woodward is P5, 4.1 behind Powell 2002. Panzer F1 in the SEs is second, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson is P7, 2.7 behind Walter Phillips. Panzer F1 on lap 27 is P2, 0.4 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson in the SEs is P7, 2.7 behind Walter Phillips. Panzer F1 in Thunder Valley is second, 0.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson in the keyhole is 7th. Best lap is a 1:12.165. Riley Gallardo on lap 28 is third, 1.0 behind Panzer F1. Gordon Jacobson in Thunder Valley is 7th. Riley Gallardo on lap 29 is P3, 2.0 behind Panzer F1. Gordon Jacobson is P7, 0.5 behind Walter Phillips. Riley Gallardo in the SEs is P3. Gordon Jacobson is 7th, 0.5 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 in the keyhole is P2, 3.3 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson from United States in the SEs is P7, 1.8 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 in start finish is P2, 3.1 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson is 7th, 0.5 behind Walter Phillips. Walter Phillips from United States is P7, 0.1 behind Gordon Jacobson. Gordon Jacobson is P7, 0.5 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 is 2nd, 1.8 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson is P7, 0.8 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 in Thunder Valley is P2, 2.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson is 7th, 0.8 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 in the SEs is P2, 2.0 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson in the SEs is 7th, 0.7 behind Walter Phillips. Hansarev 1 in the keyhole is 2nd, 2.5 behind Austin Ogonowski. Gordon Jacobson is 7th, 0.3 behind Walter Phillips. Walter Phillips was 73.3 faster last lap. Jen Markoff 007 in the SEs is P9. Gordon Jacobson in the SEs on lap 32 is 7th, 0.5 behind Walter Phillips. Walter Phillips in the carousel is P7 battling Gordon Jacobson. Walter Phillips passed Gordon Jacobson for 6th. Riley Gallardo in the SEs is P3, 1.3 behind Panzer F1. The leader has just finished the race. Austin Ogonowski finished P1. Panzer F1 finished P2. Riley Gallardo finished P3. Jen Markoff 007 finished P9. Walter Phillips finished 6th. Gordon Jacobson finished 7th. Powell 2002 finished P4. Kevin Woodward finished 5th. Louis Magalang finished 8th.